The hero's journey archetype represents the universal quest for personal growth, transformation, and self-realization. It embodies the challenges, trials, and revelations that each individual faces in their pursuit of a more authentic and meaningful life. From the call to adventure to the final return, the journey is a process of confronting fears, overcoming obstacles, and embracing one's true potential. It is a reminder that growth often requires stepping into the unknown, facing our inner demons, and undergoing profound change. The hero's journey is not just a narrative for stories, but a framework for understanding our own lives and the transformative potential within each of us. Through this archetype, we learn that no matter how difficult the path may be, the rewards of self-discovery and personal transformation are worth the effort. And in the end, we return to the world with new wisdom and the power to make a positive impact. When you stop being available, everything changes. You begin to transform from the outside in. For so long, you've been a reflection of the demands placed upon you, shaped by the expectations of others. But when you choose to withdraw, not out of fear, but out of the necessity to preserve your energy, something remarkable happens. You reclaim your essence. In the vast landscape of our psyche, there exists an unconscious world that often dictates how we respond to others, how we give, how we compromise, how we lose ourselves in the service of others. But the truth is, you cannot pour from an empty cup. The first step toward transformation is recognizing the power of boundaries. By establishing them, you honor your own energy and needs. Boundaries are the invisible lines that define our limits, protecting our emotional, mental, and physical well-being. They are crucial in maintaining a sense of self and ensuring that we do not become lost in the needs and demands of others. Boundaries are not just about saying no to others, but about saying yes to ourselves. They reflect our understanding of where we end and where others begin. In a world that constantly demands more of us, whether through work, relationships, or societal expectations, boundaries act as a safeguard, allowing us to preserve our energy, our time, and ultimately our identity. At its core, the power of boundaries lies in the act of self-preservation. When we fail to set boundaries, we risk losing ourselves in the process. We become overextended, constantly giving without receiving. Over time, this imbalance can lead to burnout, resentment, and even a breakdown of the self. By not honoring our boundaries, we become reactive rather than proactive, shaped by external forces rather than guided by our inner truth. When we establish clear boundaries, however, we reclaim control over our lives. We take responsibility for our own needs, ensuring that our emotional and mental health are prioritized. Setting boundaries requires a deep understanding of oneself. It is not simply about determining where to draw the line with others, but about recognizing what we need to feel safe, respected, and valued. This requires self-awareness, the ability to tune into our own emotions, thoughts, and feelings, in order to assess what is truly important to us. Self-awareness is the foundation upon which healthy boundaries are built. Without it, we may fail to recognize when our limits are being pushed. Or worse, we may allow others to infringe upon our boundaries out of guilt or fear of conflict. The process of setting boundaries can be challenging, especially if we have been conditioned to prioritize the needs of others over our own. Many people struggle with feelings of guilt when they set boundaries. They may fear being seen as selfish or unkind. This is particularly common in those who have been taught to be people pleasers or caretakers, whose sense of self-worth is often tied to how much they can give to others. However, the truth is that setting boundaries is an act of self-respect. It is a recognition that our needs are just as valid as anyone else's. By establishing boundaries, we honor our right to take care of ourselves, to rest and to recharge. Well, another crucial aspect of boundaries is that they protect us from toxic or manipulative behavior. In relationships, boundaries are essential for maintaining healthy dynamics. Without boundaries, we may become enmeshed with others, losing our individuality and becoming overly involved in their emotional states. This enmeshment can lead to codependency, where one person's needs dominate the relationship, and both individuals lose sight of their own needs. By setting clear boundaries, we communicate our expectations and ensure that our relationships remain balanced. It is a way of saying, I respect you, but I also respect myself, and it fosters mutual respect and understanding. In the workplace, Boundaries are equally important. Many people struggle with saying no at work, fearing that it will lead to conflict or jeopardize their career advancement. However, constantly overextending ourselves in the workplace can have serious consequences on our well-being. It can lead to stress, anxiety, and physical exhaustion, diminishing our ability to perform at our best. Setting boundaries at work involves knowing when to speak up, when to delegate tasks, and when to step away. It is not about avoiding work, but about ensuring that we are not overburdened or overwhelmed. By setting healthy boundaries, we create space for productivity and creativity, as well as the opportunity to maintain a balanced and fulfilling life outside of work. The importance of boundaries is not just about protecting ourselves from others. It is also about protecting our time. Time is a finite resource, and once it is spent, it cannot be reclaimed. By setting boundaries, we create the space to prioritize the things that matter most to us, whether that be time for self-care, time with loved ones, or time for pursuing our passions. Without boundaries, time slips away, often spent on things that do not align with our values or goals. When we become clear about our boundaries, we can make intentional choices about where to invest our time, ensuring that it is spent in ways that bring us fulfillment and meaning. Boundaries also play a key role in emotional health. They allow us to recognize when we are being overwhelmed by the emotions of others, and they give us permission to step back and process our own feelings. Often we become so involved in the emotions of those around us, whether family, friends, or co-workers, that we neglect our own emotional needs. By setting boundaries, we protect ourselves from emotional burnout, and we give ourselves the opportunity to process and heal. Boundaries act as a buffer between our inner world and the external world, allowing us to maintain emotional equilibrium. The concept of boundaries extends beyond interpersonal relationships. It also applies to our relationship with ourselves. Self-boundaries are a form of self-care. They involve setting limits on how we treat ourselves, what we allow into our minds, and how we interact with our own thoughts and feelings. This may involve saying no to negative self-talk or limiting exposure to toxic media. It may involve setting aside time for rest and reflection, or making decisions that honor our personal values and beliefs. Self-boundaries are about creating the space to nurture our own growth, to protect our peace of mind, and to cultivate a deep sense of self-love. The power of boundaries is transformative. When we set boundaries, we send a message to the world that we are worthy of respect, and that our needs are just as important as those of others. We create the space for authentic connections, relationships that are based on mutual respect and understanding. We protect ourselves from burnout and emotional exhaustion, and we give ourselves permission to focus on our own growth and well-being. Setting boundaries is an act of self-care, a way to honor our inner selves and to live in alignment with our values. It is a practice of self-love, and when we embrace it, we invite more peace, balance, and fulfillment into our lives. The unconscious mind is one of the most mysterious and influential aspects of human psychology. It operates below the level of our conscious awareness, yet it plays a profound role in shaping our thoughts, behaviors, and emotions. While we are not always consciously aware of the workings of our unconscious, it influences every part of our life. Our conscious mind is limited by what we are immediately aware of, our thoughts, sensations, and perceptions, but the unconscious encompasses far more, including memories, emotions, instincts, and patterns of behavior that lie outside our immediate awareness. The unconscious is a vast reservoir that holds past experiences, memories, and deep-seated beliefs. Many of these elements are formed early in life and continue to shape our behaviors and attitudes long after the events that created them have passed. For example, a person who experienced neglect or trauma as a child may not consciously remember these events, but the unconscious mind holds on to these memories. These hidden memories can affect their interactions and relationships in ways they may not understand. The unconscious does not simply store memories. It also organizes and interprets these experiences, creating emotional responses that can emerge in subtle ways, often through dreams, slips of the tongue, or even body language. What makes the unconscious particularly powerful is its influence on behavior without conscious intent. Often, individuals may find themselves reacting to situations in ways that seem irrational or out of place, and these reactions are frequently driven by unconscious forces. For example, a person might feel inexplicably angry or anxious in a situation that should be neutral. Upon deeper exploration, they may uncover that these emotions stem from past experiences they have long since forgotten or repressed. In this way, the unconscious plays a key role in the way we interpret the world and respond to it, often in ways we don't fully understand. The unconscious also governs a vast array of automatic functions that keep us alive and functioning. These include bodily processes like breathing, heart rate regulation, digestion, and reflexive actions. Although we may not be consciously aware of these processes, they are essential to our survival. The unconscious is the repository of instincts, those primal inherent impulses that drive fundamental behaviors such as hunger, aggression, and the drive for survival and reproduction. These instincts are encoded in the unconscious and influence how we interact with the world, often dictating our responses to various stimuli before we even have time to think consciously about. Another key role of the unconscious is its connection to the personal and collective experiences of individuals. The personal unconscious, unique to each person, holds memories, experiences, and unresolved emotions that shape how we see the world. In contrast, the collective unconscious is a concept that refers to shared memories and archetypes present in all human beings. These archetypes are universal patterns or symbols that appear across cultures, religions, and mythology. They include figures such as the hero, the shadow, and the wise old man. The collective unconscious suggests that we share certain fundamental psychological structures that transcend our personal experiences. These archetypes influence how we think, feel, and behave, often without us realizing it. The unconscious also plays a critical role in the process of self-discovery and personal growth. Many psychological processes, such as healing and transformation, occur at the unconscious level through methods such as dream analysis, active imagination, and creative expression. Individuals can access the unconscious mind and cover hidden aspects of themselves. This is the process of individuation, where the individual integrates different aspects of the self, including those that have been repressed or ignored. By becoming more aware of the unconscious, a person can achieve greater harmony and balance between their conscious and unconscious selves, leading to greater personal fulfillment and understanding. One of the most significant ways the unconscious expresses itself is through dreams. Dreams are considered a direct expression of unconscious material, where thoughts, emotions, and desires that are repressed or hidden in the waking state come to light. Through dreams, the unconscious communicates important messages, offering insight into unresolved issues, fears, or desires. The symbolic nature of dreams provides a language for the unconscious to convey complex ideas that the conscious mind may not yet be ready to understand. These symbols, when interpreted, can help individuals better understand their emotional states, motivations, and personal struggles. Dream interpretation has long been a therapeutic tool for accessing the unconscious, offering clues to understanding the self and its deeper needs. The unconscious mind can also be seen as a form of protection. In many cases, when individuals experience trauma or distress, the unconscious mind may repress or block memories to shield the person from psychological pain. While this mechanism may serve to protect the individual in the short term, it can create long-term challenges, as these repressed memories and emotions continue to influence behavior, often leading to symptoms such as anxiety, depression, or dissociation. Working with the unconscious through therapy or self-exploration can help individuals confront these hidden emotions and integrate them into their conscious awareness, leading to emotional healing. The unconscious is also a repository of creativity. Many artistic creations, whether in the form of visual art, music, literature, or dance, are inspired by unconscious forces. Artists often report that their best work emerges when they are in a state of flow, where conscious intention takes a backseat to the free flow of creative energy. This process of channeling the unconscious is not limited to artists alone. It can apply to anyone who taps into their deeper creative resources, whether through problem solving, writing, or other forms of expression. In this way, the unconscious becomes a wellspring of potential offering individuals the opportunity to access deeper layers of creativity and innovation. In addition to being a source of personal insight and creativity, the unconscious also plays a role in our relationships with others. Our unconscious projections can influence how we perceive and interact with those around us. For example, we may project our unresolved fears, desires, or insecurities onto other people, interpreting their actions in ways that reflect our internal conflicts rather than their true nature. These projections can create misunderstandings and conflicts in relationships, making it difficult to connect with others in an authentic way. By becoming more aware of our unconscious projections, we can begin to separate our internal world from the external world, leading to healthier, more balanced relationships. Ultimately, the unconscious is a powerful force that shapes every aspect of our lives, from our thoughts and emotions to our behaviors and interactions with others. It is a vast, dynamic realm that holds both the wisdom of our past and the potential for our future. However, the shadow is not inherently negative. It represents the parts of ourselves that we have disowned, and it holds valuable lessons for personal growth. By acknowledging it in the shadow, we gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and our motivation. We learn to accept the full spectrum of our humanity, including those aspects that we may have previously rejected or feared. As we progress on the path of individuation, we also come into contact with the archetypes that reside within the unconscious mind. Archetypes are universal symbols or patterns that appear across cultures and throughout history. They are the timeless images of human experience, such as the hero, the wise old man, the mother, and the trickster. These archetypes represent fundamental aspects of the human experience and can serve as guides on our journey of self-discovery. Each individual has their own unique relationship with these archetypes, and they manifest in different ways depending on one's life circumstances and personal journey. For example, the hero archetype may appear during times of struggle or challenge, encouraging us to face adversity and grow stronger. Similarly, the wise old man archetype may appear when we are seeking guidance or wisdom, pointing us toward inner truths that lie beyond the surface. Individuation also involves the integration of the anima and animus, which represent the feminine and masculine aspects of the psyche. These archetypes are not necessarily tied to gender, but reflect the inner qualities that we all possess. The anima represents the feminine qualities in the unconscious of a man, while the animus represents the masculine qualities in the unconscious of a woman. For both men and women, achieving individuation requires an integration of these opposite gender aspects, allowing for more balanced and harmonious expression of the self. By embracing both the masculine and feminine within us, we create a sense of wholeness and completeness, transcending the limitations of gender roles and societal expectations. Throughout the individuation process, one may also experience a shift in their perception of the world. As we become more attuned to our inner selves and integrate the unconscious, we begin to see the world through a different lens. We move away from a dualistic, judgmental view of reality and embrace a more holistic perspective. We recognize that life is not simply black and white, but a complex tapestry of contradictions and paradoxes. This shift in perspective allows us to cultivate greater compassion, empathy, and understanding for others, as we realize that everyone is on their own journey of self-discovery. We learn to accept the inherent uncertainty and imperfection of life, recognizing that growth and transformation are ongoing processes. Individuation is not a linear or simple process. It is a lifelong journey that requires patience, introspection, and a willingness to confront difficult truths. It can be challenging, as it often involves facing uncomfortable emotions, letting go of old patterns, and embracing the unknown. However, the rewards of individuation are profound. As we move closer to our true selves, we experience a greater sense of peace, fulfillment, and authenticity. We no longer feel compelled to conform to external expectations or live according to the rules set by others. Instead, we begin to live in alignment with our own inner truth, finding meaning and purpose in our lives. Individuation is the process of becoming the fullest expression of who we are meant to be, embracing both our light and our shadow, and stepping into the wholeness of our being, the balance of giving and receiving. is a dynamic and essential aspect of human relationships, whether in personal, professional, or communal context. It is a fundamental principle that governs how we interact with others and how we maintain our sense of self. Giving and receiving are two sides of the same coin, and both must be in equilibrium for healthy, thriving connections to exist. When one side is disproportionate, whether in the form of overgiving or over-receiving, it can lead to imbalance, resentment, or burnout. Understanding and cultivating a healthy balance between these two elements is key to personal well-being and fulfilling relationships. At its core, giving is an act of generosity, care, and selflessness. It involves offering something, whether time, attention, resources, or love, without the expectation of anything in return. Giving can feel deeply rewarding because it fosters a sense of connection and purpose. It is a natural impulse to help others, and many people find great fulfillment in being generous, whether through acts of kindness, charitable donations, or emotional support. The act of giving allows us to contribute to the well-being of others, and in turn, it can strengthen bonds, build trust, and create a sense of community. However, giving without boundaries can quickly lead to exhaustion or feelings of being taken for granted. If we give too much without receiving, we risk depleting ourselves both emotionally and physically. Over time, this can lead to resentment and burnout, as we begin to feel that our needs are being ignored or overlooked. On the other hand, receiving is an equally important aspect of the balance between giving and receiving. It is the act of accepting support, care, or generosity from others. Receiving is not about weakness or dependence, but about being open to the gifts that others offer, whether they are material, emotional, or spiritual. Often people find it challenging to receive, especially those who have been conditioned to prioritize others' needs over their own. Many individuals, particularly those who are caregivers or nurturers by nature, may feel guilty about receiving because they equate it with taking advantage of others or being selfish. However, receiving is just as essential as giving. It allows for a natural flow of energy and maintains a sense of balance in relationship. When we allow ourselves to receive, we acknowledge our worth and our right to be supported, cared for, and loved. We also create the space for others to experience the joy of giving. Relationships thrive when both parties are able to give and receive in equal measure, fostering mutual respect, trust, and understanding. The balance of giving and receiving is not static. It shifts depending on circumstances, needs, and the flow of energy in a relationship. There will be times in life when one person is more able to give, whether due to their personal circumstances or because they feel a deep sense of compassion or generosity. In these moments, it is important for the recipient to accept the help graciously, understanding that the giver may also derive a sense of fulfillment from their generosity. Likewise, there will be times when one person may need to receive more, whether due to personal struggles, emotional difficulties, or external challenges. In these moments, it is vital for the giver to offer support with an open heart, without judgment or expectation, recognizing that their generosity contributes to the recipient's healing or growth. When the balance between giving and receiving is maintained, relationships can flourish. Healthy relationships are built on mutual exchange, where both parties feel valued, seen, and appreciated. But when we give, we offer something that is meaningful to us, and when we receive, we honor the value of the gift. This creates a sense of equality and reciprocity, where each person contributes to the well-being of the other. The act of giving and receiving strengthens the emotional bond between individuals, creating a sense of shared connection and understanding. It also allows for vulnerability, as both parties must be open to both giving and receiving in order to maintain that equilibrium. Vulnerability is essential in any relationship because it fosters intimacy and trust, allowing individuals to show up authentically and be seen for who they truly are. However, achieving the right balance can be challenging. Many people struggle with the notion of receiving, especially when they have been taught to be independent or self-sufficient. In some cultures, there is a deep emphasis on self-reliance, and asking for help or accepting support can be seen as a sign of weakness. In such environments, individuals may become trapped in a cycle of overgiving, constantly striving to meet the needs of others while neglecting their own. This can lead to feelings of burnout, resentment, and isolation, Conversely, some individuals may have difficulty giving, either because of a lack of empathy or because they feel overwhelmed by their own needs. In these cases, relationships can become one-sided, with one person carrying the emotional or physical load, while the other remains passive or uninvolved. The key to finding balance is self-awareness. It is essential to recognize our own needs, limitations, and desires in order to understand when it is appropriate to give and when it is time to receive. This requires tuning into our emotional and physical states and paying attention to any signs of depletion, frustration, or resentment. If we find ourselves constantly giving without feeling replenished, it may be a sign that we need to set boundaries or ask for help. If we find ourselves avoiding giving, it may be time to reflect on any fears or barriers that prevent us from offering support to others. Self-awareness allows us to take responsibility for our role in the balance of giving and receiving, and it empowers us to make conscious choices that foster harmony in our relationships. Another important aspect of the balance between giving and receiving is gratitude. Gratitude is the acknowledgement of the value of both giving and receiving, and it is essential in cultivating a positive flow of energy in relationships. When we give with gratitude, we offer something freely without expectation, knowing that the act itself brings us joy and fulfillment. When we receive with gratitude, we honor the generosity of others and recognize that their gifts enrich our lives. Gratitude strengthens the bond between giver and receiver, creating a sense of mutual appreciation and respect. It also allows us to remain humble and grounded, recognizing that we are all interconnected, that both giving and receiving are part of the natural cycle of life. Ultimately, the balance of giving and receiving is not just about maintaining harmony in our relationships with others. It is also about maintaining balance within ourselves. By learning to give without overextending ourselves and receive without guilt, we create space for growth, healing, and personal fulfillment. It is an ongoing process that requires mindfulness, self-awareness, and a deep understanding of the needs of both ourselves and others. When we cultivate this balance, we contribute to a healthier, more compassionate world where generosity flows freely and where both giving and receiving are honored as vital aspects of the human experience. Transforming the self is an intricate process that involves reshaping who we are at the deepest level. It is not merely about adopting new habits or making superficial changes, but about engaging in a profound internal evolution that allows us to grow, heal, and become the fullest expression of our potential. Self-transformation often arises from a deep desire for change, driven by dissatisfaction with our current state or the recognition that there is more to life than we have been experiencing. This transformation is both personal and unique for each individual, yet it is universally understood as a journey toward greater authenticity, fulfillment, and self-awareness. The process of transforming the self begins with self-awareness. We cannot transform what we do not understand. It requires us to look deeply at our lives, to examine the patterns of thought, behavior, and emotion that have shaped us, and to confront the aspects of ourselves that we may have avoided or ignored. Often, these unconscious patterns are formed during early childhood or shaped by societal expectations, family dynamics, and past experiences. As we grow, we internalize these influences, which become the lens through which we view the world and interpret our interactions. Transformation starts when we are willing to examine these aspects of ourselves, whether they are limiting beliefs, emotional wounds, or behaviors that no longer serve us. By shedding light on these unconscious forces, we begin the process of liberation from them. Self-awareness does not always come easily, as it can be uncomfortable to face parts of ourselves that we have neglected or suppressed. For example, we may discover that we have been operating out of fear, insecurity, or anger without even realizing. This realization can bring up feelings of guilt, shame, or regret, but it also opens the door to healing and growth. Acknowledging these hidden aspects of ourselves is the first step toward creating lasting change. When we bring unconscious patterns to the surface, we can begin to choose different responses and behaviors, ones that are more aligned with our authentic selves. Another key element in transforming the self is the willingness to let go of old identities. Throughout our lives, we accumulate roles and labels that define who we are, whether it is the successful professional, the nurturing caregiver, or the reliable friend. While these roles can serve us in certain situations, they can also limit our growth if we become too attached to them. Our identity can become a fixed point, a story we tell ourselves about who we are, and that story can become a prison. Transforming the self requires us to loosen our attachment to these roles and explore who we are beyond them. It invites us to break free from the constraints of past experiences and beliefs, and to allow ourselves to evolve. Letting go of old identities is often challenging, as it requires stepping into the unknown. It means releasing the comfort of familiarity and embracing uncertainty. Transformation demands that we be open to change, even when it feels uncomfortable or unsettling. It requires courage to challenge the stories we tell ourselves about our capabilities, worth, and potential. We must be willing to step out of the roles we have played for so long and discover new possibilities for who we can become. This process may involve taking risks, making mistakes, and navigating through periods of doubt. But it is through these challenges that we often experience the most profound growth. A key part of transforming the self is the practice of self-compassion. Transformation is not a linear path, and it is not always easy. There will be setbacks, moments of frustration, and times when we feel as though we are not making progress. During these moments, it is essential to treat ourselves with kindness and understanding. Self-compassion allows us to embrace our imperfections and to recognize that transformation is a gradual process. We must give ourselves permission to be human, to make mistakes, and to learn from. Instead of being self-critical or judgmental, self-compassion invites us to be gentle with ourselves and to celebrate the small victories along the way. Additionally, self-transformation often involves cultivating a new mindset. Our thoughts shape our reality, and changing the way we think can have a profound impact on our lives. This may involve shifting from a fixed mindset, in which we believe that our abilities and qualities are set in stone, to a growth mindset, where we see challenges as opportunities for learning and growth. It may also involve replacing negative thought patterns, such as self-doubt or perfectionism, with more empowering beliefs, such as self-worth and resilience. The way we view the world and ourselves shapes our actions, and by transforming our mindset, we can transform the way we experience life. Another critical aspect of self-transformation is the willingness to embrace vulnerability. Vulnerability often carries a negative connotation, as it is associated with weakness or exposure. However, true transformation cannot occur without vulnerability. It is only by allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, to show up as we truly are without armor or pretense, that we can create the space for growth. Vulnerability is not about being perfect or having all the answers. It is about being authentic, embracing uncertainty, and being willing to face our fears. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we open ourselves to deeper connection with others and with ourselves, fostering the intimacy and trust that are essential for personal growth. Transformation also requires taking action. While awareness and introspection are critical steps, real change occurs when we begin to take intentional steps toward becoming the person we wish to be. Transformation is not a passive process. It requires commitment, effort, and persistence. This may involve setting goals, developing new habits, or making changes to our environment or relationships. Taking action also means being willing to step out of our comfort zones and face the discomfort of growth. It is through these actions that we build the momentum needed to create lasting change.